Hello all, welcome to the web application pen testing series at Pentester Academy. Now in this video, we will continue to look at different techniques developers use to secure open redirects and how we can beat them. So in this specific material, we will look at when developers use a hash-based check. Now, many a times an application creates the hash of the URL, and then in the redirect URL, both the URL and the hash is present. This is done simply because then the application does not have to maintain a huge list of URLs and the corresponding hashes. Now, when an application receives a redirect request for a given URL and the supplied hash, then it goes ahead and checks it, and if the hash is valid for the URL, then it allows it through. Now, this may seem simple, but keep in mind that the sheer number of hashing algorithms out there makes it sometimes very difficult to figure out how the application is working. So let's take an example. Now, let me open up the browser. I'm going to go to localhost/hash. Now, I see a link. Please visit securitytube.net for fantastic videos. If I click on it, I arrive on securitytube.net. Let's go back. Let's copy this URL out. Let me open up LeafPad. Let's paste this. There you go. Now, if you look at it, we have basically got the URL, and along with that, we seem to have this value. Of course, just to keep it simple, I've already mentioned an appropriate parameter name called hash. Might not be the case. You might see something which looks like this, right? Pretty cryptic. And clearly, if you basically go ahead and change this URL, let's say google.com, and we copy this out, go back in here, paste this, and now if you notice, the application gives you a invalid redirect URL. So what is this hash? Now, as you can clearly figure out, well, just by looking at it, it is really going to be super difficult to figure this out. Now, this is where if you can identify the application framework, right? Is it PHP, .NET, or whatever, and then try and look at most of the included libraries for hashing functions available with the framework or the programming language, then this might be a better place to begin. So let's go back here, copy this URL out again, paste it. Now, as you can clearly imagine, this would actually mean first figuring out what are the different hashing algorithms which the framework might support. So I'm going to open up index.php. You guys should have these files in the zip file available below the video. Now, I have commented this section out. And what I'm going to do is basically go ahead and print all the hash algos available on most PHP based systems by default, right? So let's go back in here. I'm going to refresh this page, and I can see the different hashing algorithms available. So I can see we have MD2, MD4, MD5, all the different SHAs up to 512. and a bunch of others which are available, right? You even have CRC32, right? Some of which most of us may be more aware of, and some hashing algorithms which clearly we've never ever heard of. So in this case, one of the steps we would need to do is write code where we can feed in a URL, and then we can go ahead and see the hash of this URL based on all of these different hashing algorithms, right? And of course, if you research on the programming language, the default libraries, or even the application framework and their default libraries, mostly developers would stick to them rather than creating their own hashing functions, right? Now, in this specific case, as we can see, the developer has been using MD5, right? And creating a hash of the URL. In the next video, we will actually take up hashing with salt. Don't worry if you don't know what a crypto salt is. We'll discuss that in the next video, right? So as you can clearly see, to solve this problem, we need to write a simple program which can actually print out the hashes for different hashing algorithms given a URL. So this is what this little program does. For every hashing algorithm available using hash algos, we go ahead, create the hash and print it out there for a given URL which is taken as input. So I'm going to go back here, and all I have to do is basically go to localhost hash and then say hash.php, and this requests a URL. I'm going to just type in http securitytube.net, right? This is exactly the one we have here in this URL. If you hover your mouse, you can see at the bottom in here, securitytube.net. Now let me click on get hash list, get a bunch of them. Okay, here you go. So if I look at this specific one, go in here, we see it begins with 9529. Okay, should be an easy way to at least begin the search. And here we go, right? We can clearly see that MD5 seems to have it, right? This is the one here. Fantastic. So now if I were to change the URL to google.com, I get a series of MD5s. Let's copy this out and go back in here. Series of hashes of which this is the MD5 one. And let me change this to google.com. Copy this out, paste it, hit an enter, and there we go. Now the redirect works perfectly. Now keep in mind though that hashing algorithms are definitely case sensitive, right? And it will not work if you change the case uppercase, lowercase, or of course if you definitely like add a www or whatever, right? So this is how you can begin looking at how you can try and figure out which hashing algorithm was probably used. It's a good idea to have scripts like this for multiple platforms and all the libraries they support, so that you can very quickly figure stuff out. Now let's actually play with a small variation. And what I'm going to do is, oops, let me open up index.php and let's say I change this to SHA-512. Right, now if I go back in here, hit an enter, you'll actually find the link is just huge. Let's go back here. Let's enable word wrap just so that we can see the whole link in its entirety and beauty. Unfortunately, even word wrap was not going to work for this because let's see if we can do a complete wraparound. Doesn't look like we can. Okay, so you can clearly see the size of a SHA-512, right? Now, if I were to go back here, use securitytube.net, hit this. Here is my SHA-512. The value is 6FB61. That's how it begins. So we have 6FB61, as you can clearly see here, which points to us that this is SHA-512. So now if I wanted to get the same thing for google.com, I'm going to copy this out. Paste this new hash. Hopefully I should be able to copy this properly. Let's actually go back here just to verify we have this copied correctly. Okay, my mistake is I haven't changed this to google.com. Let's go back in here. Right. Of course, this isn't going to work simply because we have to change the hashing algorithm on both sides. Stupid me. Which is you have to change it in the real redirect script as well, or else it just expect something else, not just in the index.php where really it didn't even matter. So let's go back in here, put this in, hit this, SHA-512. Now let me change this to google.com. Everything was copied, hopefully. And there you go, right? Fantastic. So you can clearly see that by using the technique, it is really possible to work with different hashes. Let me change this to MD5 again. And now you're in a better position to figure out what is happening. Now keep in mind, it's always important that you are able to identify the hashing algorithm. And this is non-trivial, right? It's completely non-trivial. And the better technique always is going to be that you create scripts like hash.php for the programming language and application framework in question, and that should be the best place to start, right? Fantastic. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you have, please do recommend Pentester Academy to your friends and colleagues in the InfoSec community. Thank you.